Hello all you spacefaring cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be previewing Ancient Frontier, which is a turn-based strategy game with RPG elements in development currently by Fairweather Studios. The game is set in the far future, whereby humanity is expanded out into the stars, there are the core worlds, there's the dangerous frontier, and you are placed in the role of a lieutenant in the fleet taking a tour of the frontier. And you find yourself thinking that it was going to be an easy, tour because the core worlds believe that nothing ever happens on the frontier. And you get to the frontier and you find out that it is actually a very dangerous and lawless section of space. And so comes in you, your crew, and taking command of a fleet to protect civilians, enforce the law, and of course take down pirates and enemy factions. So let's start with what you're going to be doing probably the most in the entire game, which is of course the turn-based combat. Now it's a very simple and easy to use system. Each ship has a movement point pool and an attack point pool, and the amount of points that you get for each depends on the ship and the various upgrades that ship is equipped with. Commanding your fleet, you can command anything from giant capital ships to squadron fighters, and each battle takes place on a hex-based grid in space somewhere. Now those maps themselves are going to be filled with various things such as minefields, asteroid fields, and you're also going to be able to hide in nebulas and stealth yourself so you can surprise attack the enemy. Now I have to say outright, I absolutely love the combat in this game. It's simple and effective, and it does the job as you would expect it to do. Each ship has their own unique abilities that you can activate, as well as having various statistical benefits and disadvantages depending on what class of ship it is, and of course how much you've invested into the upgrades of that specific ship. It's often the case with turn-based strategies that you can either have fairly fast-paced turn-based strategies, or you end up having a very slow slog of a time with the combat. And I think Ancient Frontier nails quite nicely down its time in combat. It feels fast-paced. It certainly can last a long time depending on the size of your fleet and the size of the enemy fleet and what the objective is, but ultimately it never feels like it gets too slow or too old to the point where it becomes boring. The AI for the most part at this current build works well. The AI doesn't just move and attack. It will try and use cover like asteroid fields. They will try and hide in nebulas, and they will of course use abilities for their ship. So they're not going to stand there, take a load of damage, and then just do nothing about it. They are going to use, shield charge, for example, to reboost their shields. And that is a little bit of a nice touch when it comes to the difficulty of the game. One thing that I was currently disappointed about in terms of the combat was the level design itself. Now of course it is set in space, so you're only going to be able to limit what you can actually do, and I think a lot of the placeholders in terms of the asteroids and the minefields, they're nice additions and they keep things interesting. What I didn't like was the backdrops. I thought the backdrops were fairly boring and didn't really showcase that you are in space and you can see these amazing things. Now I'm not saying to fill the level with things so you can't see what's going on the screen, but it would be nice to have some interesting backdrops and to have some interesting buildings or space stations. And there are space stations in the game, but they all look very generic. It would be interesting to have a couple of showpieces on a level every now and again, just to add a bit of variety and spice to the actual levels themselves. You also have several mission types, including things like just pure exploration, to destroying the enemy fleet, to escorting civilian transports. And I think that mission variety and objective variety, as well as having side objectives each mission, do help to keep things interesting and making sure that you're not doing the same old thing over and over again. Once you've successfully completed a mission, you'll be granted 3 types of resources, and these resources are used for a number of things. One is of course research, whereby you can research new technology that will upgrade a specific class of ship, and there are multiple things to choose from on each ship variation on their research tree. So you can improve their damage, you can improve their shields, you can improve their movement speed, you can improve their sensors, you can improve their initiative so you can start your turn quicker. And there's a nice array of multiple things within that research tree for each ship. The sad part of that is that I just don't think it's varied enough. Each research tree is pretty much the same as the next, and it just varies slightly from ship to ship, and I would like to see a more specialized skill system for that, in terms of, you know, maybe squadrons could do something unique or unlock a unique ability versus a frigate or a capital ship. And while it's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, and it works very well, and it's nice to have that progression system in, so that if you want to focus on, you know, deploying frigates versus smaller ships, you can do that, and you can get, you know, really solidly good frigates versus any other ship, and it's how you want to really explore those options. You can also use resources to purchase new ships for your fleet, so if some ships get destroyed, you're going to need to replace them. There's a nice variety for each faction of ship, and I have to say that while the variety isn't as in-depth as I would prefer it to be, it's nice that there's enough variety in there to make sure that you can field several different units of a certain class and not feel like you're using the exact same type of unit over and over again. Now, I only got my hands on the preview build, but the game is set to have at least 2 fully fledged campaigns for different factions. The total of unique ships to be able to command is going to be over 35, so there's going to be plenty of that, and in total there's going to be 2 major factions and 3 sub-factions within the game itself. Now, in terms of the main campaign, you have story missions, and then you have optional deployments, which you can undertake side missions to gain more resources and, of course, unit experience, so the units can level up. I have to say that I like the way that the campaign system is set up. It works very well. It has options for you to choose certain things, so you can choose to do an optional side mission, but if you fail that miserably and get all your fleet killed, then you're going to leave yourself in a fairly precarious position. The story itself, from what I've seen, certainly seems interesting, and there is clearly a heavy Warhammer 40,000 influence within the story itself, which I certainly like, and I know many people will agree that that is a nice touch. The universe itself seems pretty fleshed out, and I certainly hope that within those 2 full campaigns that there's going to be plenty of story to really flesh out this universe and flesh out the characters that are involved. Overall, I have to say Ancient Frontier as a space turn-based strategy game is shaping up very nicely. As an indie project, its scope is pretty big, and I have to say that it's pulling off a lot of its core mechanics very, very well. I have to say that I was a little bit disappointed with the progression system in terms of the research and upgrade system. I would like to see a little bit more variety between each class, and perhaps a couple of abilities that are locked behind progression, so that it rewards you for really investing in certain classes, so that, you know, maybe you have a unique ability for each one. Overall, however, I have to say it's shaping up very nicely, and it's something that I will certainly be taking a look at upon launch. So that is my preview of Ancient Frontier. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, make sure to subscribe, share on social media, places like Facebook and Reddit, and as always, I will see you next time.